Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to take the notoriously complex legal rules of contract capacity, and we're turning them into a really simple, unforgettable story. Look, if you're gearing up for your final exams, you definitely don't want to just blindly memorize sections of a textbook. You want to actually grasp the underlying logic so well that it literally locks into your long-term memory. By the end of this, you're going to walk into that exam room completely ready to absolutely crush it and score that A+.
Okay, let's kick things off with a real-life scenario. Imagine a 10-year-old kid strolling into a dealership, slapping down some paperwork and trying to sign a contract to buy a luxury sports car. Intuitively, you're probably thinking, no way, that can't be legal, right? Well, before we even look at what the law says, we've got to ask why the law exists in the first place. Basically, it's there to protect vulnerable people from getting totally ripped off, and to make sure that anyone entering an agreement actually understands what on earth they're signing up for. So yeah, that 10-year-old's contract? Definitely not happening. But how does the law actually structure this protection?
Let's dive into the VIP Club Bouncer, which covers the general rule, who actually gets in.
Think of a legal contract as this really exclusive VIP club, and the law has hired a massive, strict bouncer at the front door, checking IDs. You can't just walk off the street and enter into a legally binding agreement. Under Sections 10(1) and 11, the bouncer has a very specific checklist. You've got to be of age, you need to be of completely sound mind, and you can't be disqualified by any other law, like, say, being declared bankrupt. Section 10(1) lays down the baseline rule. A contract is only enforceable if the parties actually have the capacity to make it. And then Section 11 tells us exactly what that capacity looks like. It all boils down to ability, the actual ability of the people involved to fully grasp the heavy obligations they're taking on.
Next up, who is turned away, failing the capacity test? So who actually gets rejected at the door? Well, if you don't tick those 3 boxes from Section 11, the bouncer is sending you straight home. This includes minors, which the law sometimes calls infants, defined under Section 2 of the Age of Majority Act, or AOMA 1971. It also includes anyone who is insane or bankrupt. They are completely locked out of the VIP club. The law just assumes a minor doesn't have the maturity to handle the weight of legal obligations, so any standard contract they try to make is completely 100% void.
I want you to literally visualize an animation right now. A young teenager trying to sign away their property, maybe mortgaging their land to a sketchy moneylender. The second that pen lifts off the paper, the court steps in, rips the document to shreds, and just says, nope. This is exactly what went down in famous cases like Mohori Bibi and Tan He Huan. The courts set a really strict precedent here. General contracts made by minors are totally void right from the start. Legally speaking, it's like they never even happened.
But wait, we have the VIP backstage passes. These are the exceptions to the rule.
Exception number 1, contracts for necessitaries.
Now, the law isn't totally heartless. There are these backstage passes, legal exceptions that actually allow a minor to enter into a valid contract. Think about it. If a minor is out there living on their own and they need to buy food or get a job just to survive, it'd be pretty awful if the law stopped them from making those basic life-saving contracts, right? So the very first backstage pass is for survival. Let's look at this absolutely classic case called Nash v. Inman. Picture this. A young university student wanders into a high-end tailor and orders 11, yes, 11, fancy, custom-made luxury waistcoats. But later, he totally refuses to pay. The tailor drags him to court, arguing, hey, clothes are a necessity for survival, so this kid needs to pay up.
Well, the court wasn't buying it. They ruled that 11 custom waistcoats were definitely a luxury, not a necessity. Because of that, the tailor could not enforce the contract. The key takeaway here is the massive difference between a genuine human need and just greedy luxury. The court looked at the kid's actual situation and basically said, look, a warm winter coat, sure, that's a necessity. But a massive wardrobe of custom luxury vests? Absolutely not.
So how do we legally define this? Section 69 of the Contracts Act, along with Section 2 of the Sale of Goods Act, which we usually just call ESOGA, define necessaries. And as we see in the case of Scarborough v. Sturzacker, if a minor actually needs the item, the contract is perfectly valid. The legal test is really simple. Are the goods suitable to the minor's condition in life, and are they an actual requirement at the exact time of the sale? If the answer is yes, the law gives him a backstage pass.
Grab a mental screenshot of this quick exam recap for necessities. The rule is Section 69 CA or Section 2 SOGA. The cases are Nash v. Inman or Scarborough, and your memory trick is needs over greeds. When you're sitting in the exam hall and you see a question about a minor buying stuff, just ask yourself, is this a basic need or is it just greed?
Moving right along to exception number 2, work and scholarships. The next set of backstage passes is all about helping minors secure their future. Because let's be real, society wants young people to learn skills and become productive, right? So let's look at Section 13 of the Children and Young Persons Employment Act, which handles contracts of service. Picture a young, hungry underage boxer stepping into the ring. In the case of Doyle v. White City Stadium, this underage boxer agreed to follow the stadium's rules in exchange for getting paid. When a dispute popped up, the court ruled that employment contracts that actually train and benefit the minor, those are completely legally valid.
Now, imagine a young student signing a contract with the government of Malaysia to get a teacher training scholarship. They happily take the money, they get the education, but then they try to sneak out of their required teaching service by arguing, "Oh, actually, I was a minor when I signed that, so it's void." Well, under Section 4 of the Contracts Amendment Act 1976, the court is going to say, no way. In the Jacharan Singh case, the judge ruled that scholarship contracts are fully binding. You can't just take the money and run, you have to honor your educational commitments.
Okay, here is your quick recap for work and study. Your memory trick here is work to earn and study to learn. If your exam scenario involves a minor getting a job, you drop Section 13 and the Doyle case. If it's about an education grant, hit them with Section 4 and Gurcharan Singh. This simple framework is literally your secret weapon for crafting a perfect answer.
All right, exception number 3, marriage and personal matters.
This final backstage pass is for serious personal and family commitments. The law totally gets that real life and cultural traditions don't just hit the pause button until you reach the age of majority. So Section 4A of the Age of Majority Act explicitly carves out an exception. It states that the age of majority does not affect your capacity when it comes to marriage, divorce, dower, or adoption. It's a very specific loophole. The general rule from Section 2 says minors can't contract, but Section 4A steps right in and says, except for family and personal status matters.
Just visualize a formal, culturally binding promise of marriage between two families, where one of the people involved is actually a minor. Suddenly, a huge dispute happens, and one side tries to cancel the whole thing. Does that contract just get tossed out? In the case of Rajaswari v. Balakrishnan, the court said absolutely not. They applied this exact exception to make sure that agreements which are deeply tied to personal and cultural family structures stay legally protected.
Take note of this final recap. For personal matters like marriage, your memory trick is, I do means I do. If you see any scenario involving marriage or adoption on your test, instantly write down Section 4A of AOMA and the Rajaswari case. We are at the end, the final exam visual summary, connecting the entire story together.
Now let's tie this whole explainer together into one clean mental map. Always use this logical 3-step flow in your exam. Step 1. Set the stage. Contracts require capacity under the general bouncer rules of Sections 10 and 11. Step 2. Apply the strict rule. Minors generally get rejected at the door under Section 2 of AOMA, making those contracts void, just like in Mohori BB. Step 3. Become the detective. Look really closely at the facts of your question. Is the minor buying a necessity? Are they getting a job or a scholarship? Or are they getting married? You just apply the right backstage pass, cite the specific section and case, and boom, you've just built a totally flawless legal argument.
So, do you now have the legal capacity to secure an A+ on your exam? Honestly, now that you know exactly who gets into the VIP club and exactly how those backstage passes work, you're completely ready. You understand the rules, you know why the exceptions exist, and you've got those memory tricks locked into your brain. When you see these scenarios on your paper, you're not just going to be regurgitating notes, you're going to be telling a compelling legal story. Best of luck on your exams, you're going to crush it, and keep on learning.